What up, kiddos? Welcome to today's walkthrough live lesson. I call it our little Twitch channel. We're back and going. Sorry about getting sick, but hey, COVID, what can you do except suffer through it because it was hard. But hey, back at it. Won't waste too much of your time. Let's get into it. What are we talking about? We're talking about what is the House of Representatives. Hey, you tell me. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go through it together. But if you remember, and you showed up to yesterday's live lesson where we did it live, me and Mr. Huff, we went over, actually Mr. Huff mostly went over what the house, what Congress was, and that it was two houses. You should know the vocabulary word. Thank you for saying it. Bicameral, and the House of Representatives is the lower of the two houses, but it has more members. Crazy, I know. Representatives and senators are both elected members of Congress. So what's the difference between a senator and a House of Representatives? Let me tell you. What makes that house different from the state? We'll tell you. At the end of the next lesson, you'll be able to compare the House and Senate after you learn the bases of each. Today we're focusing on the House. Tomorrow, we'll focus on the Senate. The House of Representatives is the larger of the two chambers, with more than 400 elected officials across the 50 great states of America and the non-voting districts: American Samoa, District of Columbia, Guam, the National Marine Islands, Puerto Rico, and Virginia Islands. Virgin Islands, not Virginia Islands. That'd be fun. These legislative districts within each state are elected to make conditions better for their constituents. These officials also have other duties as a nation as a whole. Today we're going to look at what are the qualifications to be a House representative. There's a name, there's a number you have to meet. Who leads the House of Representatives? How is that person chosen? How does the House of Representatives spend most of the time? What schedule does the House of Representatives follow? And what does the Constitution say about the House of Representatives should, conduct their hearings? We're going to analyze the structure and the functions of the legislative branch outlined by the Constitution. We're going to look at what the Constitution says the House of Representatives can do. And then we're going to explain the roles and duties of the House of Representatives. We're going to look at what apportioned, at-large, gerrymandering, off-year election, reapportion, and single-member districts mean. All very important words. This is a very important lesson. You know, you're taking American government during a major election year. Awesome. This is not a off-year election. It's a main year election. It's the presidential election. But the House of Representatives represented every 2 years, so they will be voting for House Representatives. Today, let's get into it. My voice hurts a little bit. Nancy Pelosi. When this lesson was made, Nancy Pelosi was the leader of the House, and then other people, Republicans, took over the leader of the House when she lost. I think it was 2010? Yeah. She lost, and then we came back, and now she's the House Representative again. Awesome stuff here. Like the legislative assemblies in the colonies, the United States House of Representatives is structured with various leaders, committees, and members. Each has a specific role and contributes to the democratic process. The House of Representatives has 435 seats, an amount that Congress, not the Constitution, determined because they were getting more and more states, they're getting more and more people. They had to cap it off, 435. The Constitution specifies that the number of representatives allowed from each state should be allocated based on the state's population. This way of distributing representation is called apportionment. When you get the number of people in your state, tells you how many people you have representing your state, and that is called apportionment. It is important to note that every state is guaranteed at least one seat regardless of its size. Currently, there are 7 states that have only 1 representative: Alaska, Delaware, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, and Wyoming. 2 senators, but only 1 in the House of Representatives. American territories and the District of Columbia are also allotted delegates, but they're not allowed to vote on bills. That would kind of breaks the no taxation and the representation, but the leader of the House of Representatives is called the Speaker of the House. The opening of each new Congress, the House of Representatives elects a speaker from among its members. This speaker traditionally comes from whichever party has the most representatives, which is why Nancy Pelosi is in charge now. It's because she was a Democrat. As the leader of the House, and in fact, the leader of the House's majority party, the Speaker of the House is an extremely powerful position. Furthermore, the Speaker is next in line for the presidency after the Vice President. If it's the President and the Vice President, Nancy Pelosi would be in charge, or whoever the Speaker of the House would be. The Speaker's role is simple in theory: to manage business of the House and to maintain order. In practice, fulfilling this role is so challenging. It's so many things, and over the hundreds of years of how we've set up our Congress, there's so much stuff they have to do. The Speaker runs the sessions of the House by deciding which bills the House will vote on, and interpreting the rules, moving the bills to committee, naming the members to each committee. Members cannot speak in session until the Speaker recognizes them, though usually she's not the person doing that. She has someone else do it for her. It's really interesting if you want to look into it. If you don't want to look into it, just know Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, and the Speaker of the House is a very important position. It's third in line for the presidency, and they get to kind of control what goes on in the House of Representatives. It's important. All right. So, what you need to do is read the textbook up above me. Read that textbook, Magruder, American Government. Pause me, read it. Welcome back. You better have read it. And let's move on. Page 3. Qualifications for the House of Representatives. This is the one you can get in at the lowest age of 25. You can graduate college, spend 3 years interning, and boom, run for the House of Representatives at 25. I think you have to be 27 to rent a car. So you can actually be in the House of Representatives before you can rent a car. Very young age. You must be a resident of the state where you are elected. You cannot run for the House of Representatives in Wyoming. If you're living here with me in South Carolina, which you better be, or you're going breaking the rules. You can't be a student in South Carolina Connections Academy living in Florida, are you? But if you're living with me in South Carolina, you can only run in South Carolina. And you must have been a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years. So you have to have been a citizen for 11 years. Informal and qualifications, gender doesn't matter. But basically, yeah, you're going to need some name recognition. You're going to need some ability to raise that moolah, because you got to raise a lot of money to be a congressman. Okay, now that you know about what you must be, which is basically 25 and a resident of America, and been in your state for 7 years, here's what you need to know. Representative has served 2 years. They have to run every 2 years, which is why they spend so much time trying to raise money, because they have to run every 2 years. However, nothing in the Constitution limits the number of terms you can serve. These people have been serving for a long time. Elections are held every other year, making representatives always aware of an upcoming election. Elections for representatives occur either in the same year as the presidential election or in an off-year election. 2020 is presidential election. The off-year election will be? Yes. 2022. That's fun to say. 2022. Gosh, I hope 2022 is a lot better than 2020. I mean, I could just go in. Oh, sorry. All right. When president is not being selected. For example, 2016 includes the presidential election, whereas 2018 is an off-year election. This election is old. I'm sorry, it's old. A common occurrence in the election cycle is the presidential's political party usually loses seats in the off-year election because people are dissatisfied with the president and tend to vote his party out of office. That's true. That's historically true. So no matter who wins on 2020 and 2022, expect that parties to lose a lot of seats in Congress because it happens all the time. 407. Oh, gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is awful. If you look at the way the districts look, you can see that it's all drawn in different ways because the people who are in control try to make sure that the people who they agree with get to be in power. And you can look at the South Carolina. Let's look at South Carolina congressional districts. SC congressional districts. Why did I spell out the whole thing? I don't know. I did. It's fine though. Images. There we go. That's what it looks like. They're not blocks. They didn't draw them off in blocks. Oh, no. They made them look kind of gerrymandered so that you can see that different groups can stay in power because that's Republican district, that's Republican district, that's Republican district, that's Republican district. They put all the people who tend to sometimes vote Democratic, a majority of them, they put them in one district. It seems like the people who live in here, more than 50% of those people want to vote for Democrats, so they drew the thing around them. Whereas like only 30 or 40% of the people here are Democrats. It makes that Republican. So that's kind of the way they gerrymander it, and they did it here too. But this is actually Democrat in this one right here. Interesting. That's what they do. That's what gerrymandering is. While I'm here, let's look. Hey, who does what, when, where, and how? These are our districts. We have 7 of them. Joe Cunningham is in the first. There it is. There's their weird looking district. That's kind of gerrymandered. What? They didn't grow a block right there. No, they grew it. The whole coast is Joe Cunningham. Well, not the whole coast. We got Joe Wilson. He is in the 2nd district. Way over here in that part of the state. Nice. Jeff Duncan represents a lot of the people in the upstate of South Carolina. Booyah. Right there. Beside him, you got William Timmons is way over here. Represents a lot of the folks. Ralph Norman up here in Rock Hill. Jim Clyburn is the Democrat that is in that gerrymandered area right there. And Tom Rice. Rice Man is over here doing the Horry County business, Marlboro County, and all that mess. So these are our 7 representatives from South Carolina. Usually it's 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat. But Joe Cunningham was able to win in that district along Charleston last time. In a very Republican district, you can see that's R plus 10. And the Democrat district, they drew it, is D plus 20. So these districts right here tells you how many, like what the tilt is. And all the districts are mostly Republican, except for that one district here. But they were able to win in one. Interesting. I find it interesting. You find it interesting? Then I'll move on. All right, fine. Moving on. Gerrymandering is a common practical process that influences the shape and size of districts of both political parties. Just talked about it. Let's look at reapportionment. And talk about that one. Important word. Reapportionment. Starts with re. So instead of doing it over again. Apportionment. What is a portion? A portion of pie would be delicious right now. Okay, let's do it. Keep in mind that there are 435 seats in the House of Representatives, and 7 states have only 1 state. Keep in mind there are 435 seats in the House of Representatives and 7 states have only 1 seat. That means that there are still 428 seats to be divided among 43 states. You have learned that the number of seats divided based on population, but now you have to explore the congressional districts are established by each state. Every 10 years after the census, you guys are in a election year and a census year. Did you do the census? You really don't have much time. Congress reapportions or redistributes states and the House of Representatives as outlined in Article 1 of the Constitution. While the strict number of members is 435 for the House, the seats are not divided equally like they are with the Senate. Each seat represents 70,000 people approximately. So as populations shift and migrate, they move out. We used to only have 6 Congress members in South Carolina. More people are moving to the great state. We got another one. Yay. And then we move the districts around. Yay. That's what Texas is like. Yay. Moving on. This is a long one. Thank you guys for sticking with me. You're learning. I'm learning. I'm not learning. I'm teaching. I already knew this stuff. But I'm glad to have you here. See what 5 looks like. Oh, a closer look at Jerry. Oh, before I move on. Sorry. Read it. Read it. Read it. Read it. Read it. Read it. Pause while you read. Really good job reading there. I really appreciate it. Oh, wait, you didn't pause and you didn't read? For those people in pause, read. All right. Thanks. Thanks for doing it. If you still didn't do it, really? In this lesson, you learn how congressional districts are drawn and redrawn every decade and lead to the political practice of gerrymandering. Before you get started with the activity, consider how gerrymandering has altered the House of Representatives and answer the following questions. How do you think this practice has supported or undermined the diverse voices of American people? How does being elected in a gerrymandered district by one's party affect the way our representatives votes and acts? How might gerrymandering affect the functioning of Congress? Read, read, read. Read, read, breathe. You do the work. Instead of just me talking. I hope I gave you background. It's your turn to work. Pause. Isn't that interesting about gerrymandering? I don't like it. Moving on. 6 of 7. House review. Repeat the following activity. This is where you guys get to work. I'm not doing it all for you. No. But learn more about House Representatives. Guys, there's so many people right now in the election year have no idea how the House of Representatives works or what's going on. They just know Congress, and there's some guys up there speaking a lot. Learn it now. And if you learn it now, you know it forever. Learn it. Do the lesson. Learn the stuff. Be smarter than most people in America about their government just by doing this right now. Huh? Do it. Do it. Do it. And while you're doing it, make sure you do the quiz right here on the end. It's not even a quiz. Really? How can you not have a quiz? This should be a quiz. Guys, 3 questions for the House of Representatives? That's awful. But do it anyway. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions or concerns, just give me a webmail. Give Mr. Huff a webmail. He's your teacher. And we'll definitely want to go over those. Thank you so much. Glad to be back on our daily live lesson schedule. Yes, this is the actual way I act when cameras face at me. So if you find it annoying, I'm sorry. Stick around anyway. All right, bye.